Okay, so in this sort of second half of this playlist, we're going to be looking at calculations with standard form. And to begin with, we're going to be doing some multiplying with standard form. Now, let's say we wanted to multiply 4 times 10 to the 3 times 2 times 10 to the 5. Well, actually, we can multiply this in any order at all. Actually, these brackets here don't really mean anything because doing 4 times 10 to the 3 times 2 times 10 to the 5 can be done in any order. And what I mean by that is if you do something like 2 times 3 times 5, it doesn't matter if you do the 2 times the 3 first and then times it by 5, you'd get 6 times 5, which is 30. Or you might do the 3 times the 5 first, which is 15, and 2 times 15 is also 30. Or you might do the 2 times the 5 first to get 10, and 10 times 3 is also 30. So the order that you multiply something in doesn't matter. So if we were going to work out the answer to this calculation, well, I'd probably start off by just doing the 4 times the 2, and then afterwards I'm going to do times 10 to the 3, and times 10 to the 5. So all we need to do is calculate the 4 times 2, which is 8, and then times 10 to the 3 times 10 to the 5. Now, if you haven't recapped on index laws, if you remember when you're multiplying things with the same base, you just add those powers together. So it would be multiplied times 10 to the power of 8. So there's that answer in standard form right there. Well, let's see what's different about this question. Like I said, we could multiply it in any order. So I'm going to start off by doing the 8 times the 6, and then afterwards we're going to have the times 10 to the 6 and the times 10 to the 4. And when I do the 8 times the 6, I get 48. And then when I do these parts, I'm going to add the powers together. So that's the 6 and the 4, and I'm going to get multiplied by 10 to the power of 10. Well, what is different about this question? Hopefully the thing that you've spotted is that the answer here is not in standard form. And I still want to give my answer in standard form. It would usually tell you in the question what form it wanted to be given in. So to make it in standard form, the first number needs to be between 1 and 10. So I'm going to divide this first number by 10. But to keep it balanced, I have to do the opposite over here because I've divided that one by 10. I'm going to multiply it by 10. Another way that you can think of multiplying by 10 is you can think about adding 1 on to the power. So we get 4.8 multiplied by 10 to the 11. So it's kind of like the numbers that I did in the previous video, or in an earlier video where I said it's almost in standard form. We divide that by 10 and we times that one by 10 there. So the thing that was different about this question is the initial answer was not in standard form. So I want you to leave the answers to these in standard form. I'm going to do these calculations and then you're going to try these four on the next page. So these are my examples that I have here. Okay, so for this first one here, I'm going to do the 2.4 multiplied by the 3, and then I have the 10 to the minus 3 and the 10 to the 7. Well, 2.4 times 3, you can do kind of any method for that, but if I do 24 times 3, 3 times 4 is 12, 2 times 3 is 6, and add on the 1 is 2. So it's not going to be 72 because of the extra decimal point we had to begin with, it will be 7.2. And then for the powers, I'm going to be doing minus 3, plus 7, and minus 3 plus 7 is 4. So the answer is 7.2 times 10 to the 4. Now this next one, I'm going to do the 1.5 times by the 1.5, and then the 10 to the minus 3, and the 10 to the minus 7. Well, instead of doing 1.5 times 1.5, I'm going to do 15 times 15. You should know what 15 squared is, but let's just quickly work this out. 5, carry the 2, 5 times 1 is 5, and add on the 2 is 7. And then 1 times 5 and 1 times 1 is 150. So when I add these together, I get 225. But it's not going to be 225. The decimal point will be 2 places in. So it's 2.25 times 10 to the power of, well, this is minus 3, and you're adding on negative 7. So you actually end up at negative 10. That is minus 3, add negative 7. That gives you negative 10. Okay, so this one, it might be useful actually to put it in standard form first. So this second number is going to be 3.1 times 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3.1 times 10 to the 6. So I have 5 multiplied by 10 to the 4 multiplied by 3.1 times 10 to the 6. In fact, why don't I actually redo the order as well so that I have it in the most convenient way? So I've got the numbers first, and then I've got the powers. Well, 5 times 3.1, the 5 times the 3 is the 15, and the 5 times the 0.1 is 0.5. So it's 15.5 multiplied by 10 to the power of 10. But this number is not in standard form, and we want it to be in standard form. So this one, I'm going to divide it by 10, and this side I'm going to have to do the opposite and multiply it by 10. So when I divide this by 10, I get to my 1.55, which is the number I wanted it to start with, and I'm going to multiply it by 10, meaning add 1 on to the power, so you got times 10 to the power of 11. Okay, putting this number in standard form over here, the start number is going to be 2.2, and there's my shortcut of those 3 zeros before, so it is times 10 to the power of minus 3. So when I write this in any order, I'm going to do my 2.2 and my 6 being multiplied, and then my 10 to the minus 3 and my 10 to the 5. So I'll do 2.2 times 6. Well, I'll just do 22 times 6 and then put the decimal point back in. However you want to do the multiplication, it doesn't have to be in this method like mine, whatever you prefer. So 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 2 is 12, but add on the 1, which is 13, so it's 132. So it won't be 132 because there's one number after the decimal point, so it'll be 13.2 times by, now you're adding these powers, so that's minus 3 plus 5. When you're at negative 3 and you add on 5, you get to 2, so it's timesing it by 10 squared. Now again, this number here is too big. We're going to need to divide it by 10, just like I did on that previous line. So if this is going to divide by 10, I need to multiply this side by 10. And when I do that, I get 1.32, add on 1 to the power, and I get 10 cubed. So my answers are 7.2 times 10 to the 4, 2.25 times 10 to the minus 10, 1.55 times 10 to the 11, and 1.32 times 10 cubed. And you can check that these are all in standard form because the first number is between 1 and 10, and we have it being multiplied by 10 to the power of something. So here are 4 questions for you to have a go at. Pause the video and see if you get the same answer as me. Okay, so I might go a bit quicker. I might do straight away the 1.5 times 3. 3 times 1.5 is 4.5. And then the 10 to the minus 4 and 10 to the 8, that is going to be minus 4 plus 8, which is just 4. Now I'm going to do here the 8.3 multiplied by 2. That's an easy one. That is just going to be a 16.6. The 10 to the 7 and the 10 to the minus 10, remember you're adding the powers, so you're going to do 7 add minus 10. And that's going to be to the power of minus 3, because 7 take away 10 is minus 3. Now this isn't quite in standard form, so I'm going to divide this one by 10 to get 1.66, but that means I'm going to multiply this one by 10. In other words, I'm going to increase the power by 1. Increase the power by 1. And when you go minus 3 and you increase it by 1, you get to minus 2. So this side divided by 10, this side times by 10. Okay, this one I'm going to put into standard form first of all. It's a 9.1 times 10 to there is 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros times 10 to the power of minus 4. And that's going to multiply by the same thing, the 3 times 10 to the 7. So I'll need to do the 9.1 times 3. Well, that's a pretty easy one because 9 times 3 is 27 and 3 times the 0.1 is 0.3. Then for the 10 part, I've got the power of minus 4 and 7. So I'm at minus 4 and I'm going to add on 7. I get to 10 cubed. Now again, I need to divide this one by 10, so I get 2.73, which means I need to increase that power by 1 because I'm multiplying it by 10. The very last one here, this is 3 times 10 to the power of 6. And so I'm just going to do these calculations. I'm going to do my 4.2 times 3. That's quite an easy one because 3 lots of 4 is 12 and 3 lots of the 0.2 is 0.6. So it's 12.6 times by 10 to the 7 and 10 to the 6. Add those powers and 7 and 6 is 13. Now it's not quite in standard form, so I'm going to divide that first one by 10 and I'm going to multiply that one by 10 by increasing the power by 1 so that I've got my answers in these highlighted parts here. Hopefully you got the same as me. So I always link questions in the description. That means you can go and do some more practice. And in the next video, we're going to be doing division with standard form. Found this video helpful? Then why not drop it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. If you'd like the next video in the playlist, you can click here to be taken straight to it. And as always, wishing you the very best for all your studies.